Renovating Retirement with Charlie Jewett. Oh no, I think I'm about to have another episode.
Hey everybody, Charlie Jewett here with the Renovating Retirement Podcast. And I've probably never been more tired ever when I was going to record a podcast episode. But I want to keep on posting content for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and play injured and get this thing out here anyway, even though I'm exhausted, going on very little sleep. What I want to talk about today, episode 136, is what is your contrarian tolerance? New term. A lot of people talk about risk tolerance. Now, risk tolerance in the investment world or the financial planning or retirement planning world is kind of a number one. I mean, where do you start with a client? Say, all right, let's talk about your risk tolerance. How much money do you have? How much money do you need? What's your risk tolerance? How much can you afford to lose and not freak out and everything? Okay, risk tolerance tends to be it is only a term when you're talking about securities, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and things like that for the most part. And it's kind of like how much can you lose without freaking out and selling right after the loss, like without freaking out and selling while things are low. And why is that? Because bear markets are actually kind of good for portfolios over time. You're losing money, but you keep buying by investing through your 401k or IRA or whatever it is. During retirement, by the way, if you have a bear market and the market goes down and you're taking money out as income, totally opposite effect. Reverse dollar cost averaging blows the entire thing up. Horrible thing to do. Anybody telling you to leave money in a portfolio of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds while taking an income is probably a criminal. You do not want to do that. That is completely proven to cause you to run out of money very, very quickly. And remember, the estimate for what you can take out of a portfolio anyway is about 2.8%. So if you want to receive a very, very low amount of money as far as income is concerned during retirement, leave it in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Or if you want to take more than 2.8% and have an extremely high risk of running out of money, you could also follow the joker broker advice or follow the criminals. But there's no reason to do that because the safer strategies have a better answer that's 5, 6, 7% income instead of 2.8 without any chance of running out of money. So there's just no reason to be doing that. But while you're growing your money, bear markets tend to be kind of okay for you if you can tolerate it. Because when the market goes down, which means stocks, bonds, and mutual funds have lost value, which is another way of saying that is that they're cheaper, and you're continuing to buy them by putting money into 401ks, IRAs, continuing to save, you're buying them at a cheaper rate than the other ones you bought, and that tends to be good when they go back up. So that's not a problem. But let me read this online definition of risk tolerance so you can kind of hear what I'm talking about. Risk tolerance, this is from Investopedia, by the way. Risk tolerance is the degree of variability in investment returns that an investor is willing to withstand. Important term, withstand. Risk tolerance is an important component in investing. You should have a realistic understanding of your ability and willingness to, ready for the word, stomach large swings. So far we have withstand and your ability to stomach large swings in the value of your investments. If you take on too much risk, you might panic and sell at the wrong time. And that's what this is all about. Making sure that you can handle when the market goes down so that you don't sell at the wrong time. Because oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes when that market takes the big crash, that wouldn't be the best time to sell. Sometimes it is. Sometimes that's the market telling you, or your portfolio telling you, hey man, I am not set up properly and I can lose a bunch of money, and you may want to just get a divorce from the entire thing, if that makes sense. But all of this language about stomaching it and withstanding these losses and all this, none of this even matters. Like, the only reason we even talk about risk tolerance is because there was a time where risk had some advantage. From 1970 to 1999, the risk market, playing the risk game, having risk in your life, if you could tolerate and stomach it, 38% losses, 25% losses, things like that, if you could hang on and not freak out and panic and get out of the market and get through those for the next 5 or 7 years when the market recovered, it paid really well. 13.5% compounding from 1970 to 1999. If you don't know where I got that number, just go to CAGR, C-A-G-R, or go to S&P 500 CAGR calculator and look up the one, I think it's from MoneyChimp, and you can see that market compounded at about 13.5%. That's not what's been happening since 2000 until now, so for the last 18 years. So this only matters if risk has an advantage. But if taking risks pays less than not taking risks, you don't need a risk tolerance. Does that make sense? It's like saying, what's your tolerance for being burned or being shot in the face? Like being a police officer. You know what I mean? Hey, what's your risk tolerance? You might get shot on the job. You know what? I can do that. I like the adrenaline. I like having an authority. I like to protect people. I'll be a cop because I'm okay. I might get shot. Big deal. If you don't ever want to get shot, you can't be a cop. You know? No one would say, what is your tolerance for being stung by bees? Unless beekeeping had a tendency to turn a nice profit. Well, what if beekeeping, making honey, basically, right? What if beekeeping paid incredibly well for years, even decades, 5, 6, 7 decades, where making honey, basically, letting these bees sting you from time to time, finding ways to wear that weird net thing over your head and have bees all over you. I don't even know how you get them off before you go inside for dinner. I don't know what you do. I guess you go through like a smoke chamber or something like that. I got to watch more TV, apparently. If that paid well for decades, like far above minimum wage, 3, 4, 5 times above minimum wage for sometimes being stung and scraping honey and stuff like that, then people would do it. And they say, what's your risk tolerance? Oh, I'm okay getting stung every now and then. No big deal. But if that paid less than minimum wage, or sitting at home taking online surveys, or working in a candy shop or at an amusement park, all of a sudden paid, 2 to 3 times more money than keeping bees and being stung while you try to get the honey, would anybody even talk about risk tolerance for being stung by bees? If being a police officer paid $3 a year to risk your life of possibly being shot, would anybody even talk about being a cop? No. There has to be some risk-reward relationship before you even talk about what is your risk tolerance, or else you don't need a risk tolerance. I can tell you right now, what is my risk tolerance? I'm a Caucasian. What is my risk tolerance for walking into neighborhoods that are predominantly another race, non-Caucasian, and screaming, insulting things at them and seeing what happens? My risk tolerance is 0 because there's nothing to gain. Absolutely nothing to gain. Now, if somebody said, run into a neighborhood, say something nasty, and you get $1 million, I'm still not going to do it because of my morals, but the $1 million might be tempting to somebody. There has to be something on the other end to make somebody take a risk in the first place. Hey, walk across a balance beam. I used to teach gymnastics to 13-year-old boys, right? I dated a gymnast for a very long time in high school. I don't know, is high school even a very long time? I went into college too, so a somewhat long time. I dated a gymnast. I worked at the, what do you even call that anyway? The gym. I guess I worked at the gym. I think of lifting weights when I think of a gym, but I worked at the gymnastics gym that she worked at and worked with the 13-year-old boys. And by the way, we didn't do balance beam, so why am I telling that story? I don't know, because I'm a weirdo. But anyway, she did balance beam, right? So the girls were on the balance beam. How much would you pay me to go on a balance beam if it was a foot off the ground? Or maybe a better way of saying that is, if you ask 100 people, random dudes, random people, men, women, children, whatever, walk across the balance beam, and it was a foot off the ground, how many of them would do it? Well, probably most of them. Well, now put it across 2 buildings and say, I want you to walk across the same balance beam, same chances of falling or not falling, same distance, same width on the beam. Just walk across it. The only difference is there's 18 stories below you, and if you make a mistake, you fall to your death and splatter on the ground. Would the same amount of people do it? No. It's been proven. The same amount of people would not do that. There must be an incentive. Walk across the balance beam and you'll be on a TV show. Walk across the balance beam, you'll set a world record. Walk across the balance beam will give you $1,000, $10,000, $100,000. At some point, the incentive, the reward, becomes worth the risk, which means the exact opposite has to be true. If the reward isn't there, there's no reason for the risk. If someone says, walk across a balance beam that's 180 feet above the ground, and you'll crash into oncoming traffic and splat your body open if you make a mistake. And if you get to the other side, you get absolutely nothing. Or you get $1, $2. I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it. Sure, I've got a price. There'll be at some point where I'm interested, right? But not $2, not nothing. This is what's going on in the market right now, okay? If it's not about the money for you, if it's not about risk versus reward, or you're not in the market because you believe taking the risk is worth it, or if you're not in the market because you've bought some baloney that's been dished up and you took it hook, line, and sinker, like over the last 210 years, the market makes 7.1%. Or if you leave your money in long enough, the market will pay 8 to 10%. Or if you're an absolute popular criminal, if you leave your money in the market, it'll make 12%, even though every advisor in the country has proven that criminal wrong. No. The market's not making 7 to 12% in recent history. Fine. At another time, okay, when the baby boomers were a different age and more of them were working in their peak earning years, therefore they were all buying stocks, bonds, and mutual funds inside of their retirement accounts, I'll concede, yes, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you're right. The market did go up in a way that was worth the risk. To make 10 to 13% is worth dealing with some losses and giving your spouse a hug and going, oh, baby, I feel like selling, and having your spouse go, no, it's going to be okay, and you hang tight and everything works out. You're stung by a bee, you almost fell off the roof, whatever it is, whatever the risk is, it used to be worth it. I'll give you that. But why do we care? Who cares about when the baby boomers were a different age or when the market was in different conditions? I don't care about the weather from 40 years ago. I don't care about traffic reports from even 2 weeks ago. Forget the 80s and 90s, for heaven's sakes. What about right now? What about from this century, for heaven's sakes? From 2000 to 2018, when to take all of this risk and test your risk tolerance. Have you ever seen the way they test cars before they put real human beings in them? They're called the crash test dummies. They're so popular that there's a band called the Crash Test Dummies, right? You put a crash test dummy in a car, perfectly good car, I wish they'd just give it to me, and then they drive them into walls for weeks or years. Or I don't know, somebody get in touch with me who used to work in one of those factories or work for a car dealership and tell me how many cars they destroy before they put one on the market. But they crash a perfectly good car, going 60 miles an hour or whatever into a wall, and then they measure what happens to the dummy. How many bones does it break? How many times does it break its neck? And then they don't put the car out until they've tweaked it and made it so that it doesn't hurt people that much. All I'm talking about, seriously, all I am talking about, if you're going to insist that you must be in the market, which doesn't make any sense because it pays less than safer things, but if you're addicted to the stock market like an alcoholic, like you cannot live without being in the stock market for some reason, all I'm saying is call our team, email us, and get a stress test done on the portfolio before you decide what to buy or before you stay in what you're currently in. What happens when they crash a car into a wall with a crash test dummy in it? They're saying before the crash happens to a real person, they're going, what's going to happen to their body before this is a real situation? They test it. Everything you could possibly imagine happening in the market can be tested to your portfolio before it actually happens. I think there's 96 or now probably like 105 different past scenarios that we can ask your portfolio, okay, with the current positions that this person's in, what would happen if 2008 repeated itself? What would happen if 2000 and 2001 repeated itself? What would happen if 1984 repeated itself? What would happen if we saw steep inflation? What would happen if the US dollar wasn't the world currency anymore? What would happen if this little blip back in November and December happened again? Why wouldn't you? Like, think about that. While you're driving right now, laying in bed next to your wife. I don't know anybody that uses this as like foreplay, but if you're laying in bed for some reason listening to podcasts with your wife or husband, I got to put some Barry White music on here. I don't even know what to do. But it's fine. I encourage listening to this in all places, including bed. If you're thinking about this, just think to yourself, why would I ever not stress test my portfolio? Like, why would I not want to know ahead of time how bad it can be if something that's already happened has happened? Listen, I've been dealing for 14 years with people that have fear, like major, major fear of things that have never happened once in the entire world. In all of world history, people will be like, I don't want to move my money to an insurance company. What if they go out of business? I'll say, how many insurance companies do you know that have gone out of business and not paid on their annuities or life insurance? If they go do the research, they come back and say 0. Say, okay, I don't know how productive it is to be afraid of things that have never happened. Yeah, but what if doomsday happens and a bunch of guys in, goggles and machine guns try to take my house? Well, one, we're completely outside of financial planning at this point. I don't know how to build a private military to protect your house, but it's also never happened. So I don't know why we're focusing on that. Wait. What if the U.S. dollar, God forbid, what if the U.S. dollar is not the king of the world one day and is not the currency that the entire world uses and bases everything on? And again, I go, I don't know. That's not financial planning. Financial planning is, I have money. By the way, guys, having money is not safe. You understand this? Like, if you had money back in the days where you're crossing the United States in a horse and buggy or whatever it is, and you had money, so you had coins or whatever, bandits could take it. It's not safe to have money. If you're out in a boat and you have money, you ever heard of these things called pirates? Pirates of the Caribbean? Johnny Depp apparently isn't allowed to do the movies anymore because I guess he's now just as drunk as his character. I don't know if that's true. I'm not trying to spread rumors, but that's what I read. Pirates, they come take your money. There's been pirates in the last 10 years. I'm recording this in 2019. We've had pirate stories on the news, for heaven's sakes. Having money in your mattress. You're like, the banks aren't safe. Insurance companies aren't safe. Nobody's safe. The whole world's gone to crap. All right, put it in your mattress. And the house burns down. What happened to your money? It's never been safe to have money. It's just not. It's this wonderful, horrible blessing. You have got money, and if you don't control your emotions, what happens? The having of money turns negative. You have anxiety and worry and fear all the time, and you ask me the types of questions people have been asking for 14 years about things that have never happened ever in the history of our planet. Well, yeah, I guess history of our country. I don't do much financial planning for the rest of the planet, just the United States. So the history of the United States. But you're not protecting yourself against the stuff that has happened 2 to 3 times a decade since your great-great-grandparents were born. The market crashes and it loses money. Home values go down. They crash. They lose money. Interest rates go up. Things like this. People die. Just the basics of life is what I want you to protect yourself against. Not be concerned with the things that have never happened. Once the things that have never happened have happened at least once, let's start talking about them. Why not, right? I'm off on a rabbit trail. I'm off my outline. Don't know what I'm talking about. This is ridiculous. The reason I did this episode, what is your contrarian tolerance, is risk tolerance made sense for many, many decades. Because losing money, if you could stomach it and not sell and hang on during the G-forces of your account being low, it would recover and it would be worth it. Having lost the money and bought a bunch of stocks cheap while they were down turned out to be good for you over the last 18 years, from 2000 until 2018. The market only paid 2.8 to 4.5% or whatever it is, depending on whether or not you got the dividends, which most people don't. So it hasn't been worth the risk. But I'm here to tell you some really good news. Losing money is not the only type of discomfort that you can choose that might be good for you. If discomfort makes you money, which is really the message of risk tolerance, If you're willing to be if you're willing to be discomfortable, I'm making words up, you guys. Yeah, I'm a math guy, not English at all. If you're willing to be uncomfortable, it's going to make you a lot of money in the long run. Okay, I'll buy that. But there's another type of discomfort that's not losing chunks of money, but rather going to parties, going to work, driving in your car, talking to your friends, and having the discomfort of not doing what every single other person is doing. It's not having social proof telling you that you're okay. It's going against the grain. It's swimming upstream while people float downstream with a pina colada and a raft and say, why you doing that? Why you working so hard when you could be going towards a waterfall like us? The discomfort of not following the crowd is in itself a form of suffering. Did I know this when I started my business in 2005 as a naive rookie in the financial services industry? Yes, I did real estate and mortgages, but I hadn't done retirement planning. I had no gray hair, no money, no experience, just what everyone wants from a financial advisor. Booyah! How did I make my success? I didn't make it about me. What people want, they want to see clearly. They want clarity. They want to know they're doing what's best. So I never focused on me. I never focused on earning trust. I always focused on truth and helping people to see clearly so they could make wise decisions. That's the entire success of my business and this podcast and the entire movement. Clarity, that people can understand and make wise decisions, because buying a toaster for $10 and buying a toaster for $40, if they're the same toaster and the stores are across the street, not a hard decision, because you have all the data you need. That's what the show's designed to do, and then my team backs it up. By the way, I mentioned earlier, if you want a stress test, I just mentioned my team again. To be kind, I should say how we get in touch. Charlie@JewettWealth.com, Charlie@JewettWealth.com, or you can go to 888-285-2268 and call our phone number. Or frankly, at this point, you can just put my name in any search engine, Charlie, Charlie, Jewett, Jewett, and a whole bunch of different things will come up, and just click on any of them where you see a contact me or an email or a whatever. Gosh, my cell phone's probably published out there somewhere. I don't even know anymore. But get in touch with the team if you need any help. There's a way, what we've been teaching people for 14 years, and it's not because I have some pet investment. I'm like, I don't like stocks, they're stupid. I like this other thing like oil. It's not that. All I did was look at what was paying well right now, what wasn't paying well right now, what was safer, what had more risk, what are the different options, banks, market, insurance companies, during which decades did which ones do well. Banks did well for a while, then the market did well for a while. Now insurance companies are doing well for a while. All I'm doing is what the entire industry is supposed to do, which is stop hiding things from you and be honest about what's working at this time where you need to make decisions. Doesn't that make sense? Shouldn't everybody do that? I think so. So what's paying well today is not the discomfort of losing money. It's carrying the discomfort of being a contrarian, choosing not to be a lemming and following the crowd as they all run off a cliff. Just be a little bit different. Go against the grain. So you go to parties, you're sipping on your dirty martinis. Everyone's like, how's your stock portfolio doing, Bruce? You go, well, Joe, I don't have a stock portfolio because Charlie Jewett told me stocks haven't been paying well and the risk wasn't worth the reward, so I got out of stocks. And now I have a portfolio that doesn't have any fees and doesn't have any losses at all. Bruce does not know how to respond. He kind of chokes on his martini. He's like, I don't know what to say to you. And he walks away, grabs a pig in a blanket, stuffs it in his face, and tries to find a woman to talk to. You're like, well, that didn't feel good. I don't have any friends. So you try to break into another group. All right, those guys look good. You walk up and you're like, hey, what do you guys think of annuities? The group disbands. Like, everyone runs from you. I'm just saying. Listen, all I'm saying. Stocks and bonds are fun to talk about at parties. All kinds of ups, all kinds of downs. You get a monthly statement. There's always something to talk about, right? You can whine about losing money. You can brag about making money. Stocks and bonds and mutual funds play to what everybody likes to discuss: fear and greed. What are you afraid of? What are you hoping will happen in your life? Annuities and cash value life insurance, which are beating the pants off of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, don't play to anything that anybody wants to talk about at parties. Nobody walks up to another guy and, say, hey, man, can I get you a drink and talk about surrender penalties? Where are you at in your schedule, big boy? It just doesn't happen. Ever. Right? Hey, man, did your life insurance policy come with accelerated death benefits? Hey, as you wink, it doesn't happen. If you can stand that, if you can take the discomfort of not being able to brag or lament at parties, at cocktail hour, at the open bar, you can make more money and have a better retirement than all of your neighbors. Perhaps. Let me put that in there. You might be able to, so the compliance guys don't choke on their martini fettuccinis. All right? If you go against the grain and do what no one else is doing, by the way, when has the majority ever been right? When do you ever be like, what I really want to do is follow the masses, because the masses have this sort of uniform intelligence that always leads them to a higher than average lifestyle. Wait a minute. Higher than average and masses is an oxymoron. So it's not possible to follow the masses and end up higher than average. So I actually don't really know what I'm talking about right now, and I'm going to stop and have another pig in a blanket. You can't. You cannot get to an exceptional lifestyle following the masses, because the masses are usually wrong. Why are the masses usually wrong? Because the masses, what most people do, is respond to marketing. What is most marketing? Most marketing is very high-level psychological manipulative lying, steering them towards what's best for the marketer. Is it marketer or marketor? Again, not good at English, really good at math. I don't know which one it is. I just know that the masses don't end up with the best lifestyle, and the people that go against the grain do. A contrarian, the definition, is a person who opposes or rejects popular opinion, especially in stock exchange dealing. So when you hear me talk about the 3 pillars of financial deception, and if you haven't listened to the episode, The 3 Pillars of Financial Deception, by far has the worst sound quality of all my episodes, but has incredible content. It was very early on. My kids, it was daddy weekend. I was trying to sneak in I was doing a recording every single day, if you remember that, for like 86 days, trying to sneak in my recording. I sat in a room that had no carpet, no pillows, nothing soft besides my gut, and it sounded like I was recording inside of a beer can, and they don't make beer cans that big, so it wasn't. Trust me, it was a room, but it's a little tinny, but has great content. The 3 pillars of financial deception are my example of what it looks like to be a contrarian. I do not believe anybody should ever pay off their mortgage. I've studied it. It hurts you. I do not believe that most people should postpone taxes to a later date, because all of the signs point to you being in a higher tax bracket when you retire, unless you want to live on the street and eat dog food. I do not believe that the stock market makes 7 to 12%, or that you should put your money in a portfolio of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds so I can play golf, because it pays less than things that have no fee, no chance of losses. I am a contrarian because I believe opposite of the majority. The majority of people, the lemmings, the financial lemmings, go, I'm going to pay off my mortgage. I'm going to postpone taxes to a later date. I'm only going to use stocks because this guy that I decided to trust and didn't do any checking told me to. I don't believe that. Therefore, I am a contrarian, and trust me, like being stung by bees, falling off a balance beam at the top of a 18-floor building, just like losing money in a portfolio, trust me, my being a contrarian creates suffering in my life. It creates discomfort in my life from other financial advisors. I'll stop there. I'm the financial services whistleblower, pointing out all of the things they do to rip you off. That does not make me popular at parties when I'm there sipping on the martini and trying to grab a pig in the blanket. not a lot of people being like, hey, come on into our group and tell us how we suck again. Not happening. I've chosen a type of discomfort for the reward that it gives, not only me and my personal investing. I'm 46, don't have a single dollar in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds because they're not worth it right now, but also in my professional life. Because the reward is your retirement is better. All of you that my team helps to give you 10, 20, 30% more retirement income, to give you no risk when you had risk, to make you worth 2-3 times as much money when you pass away, to create tax-free income instead of taxable income, to make sure your spouse is okay instead of destitute, that reward, that's okay with me if you get that and I'm lonely at parties, because I don't even have to go to those financial advisor parties. I can be home all alone talking to a microphone. Am I a loser? I don't think I'm a loser. I'm going to check with my girlfriend. Babe, am I a loser? Oh, she's not here. I'm alone. I guess I'm a loser. I'm not a loser. I just don't need someone on the outside of me telling me that I'm okay because I'm doing everything the same as they're doing. I make my decisions based on what is true. Taxes are lower than they've been through most of history, and the country's in so much trouble that David Walker says taxes need to double. All right? I don't think taxes are going down between now and retirement. When you pay off a mortgage and you save yourself 3 to 4.5% tax deductible using money that could have made 5.5 to 7% tax-free, you're hurting yourself. So I'm not going to do that. How's the stock market doing? It's make 2.5% to 4.5% over the last 18 years. And during that time, we've had 2 of the biggest crashes in all of history. One of them, you lost 38%. Is risk worth the reward? 100% no. What have annuities and cash value life insurance made if they were designed the right way? Oh my gosh, 6 to 10%, sometimes tax-free. Why would anybody use the stock market? So that they have something to talk about at parties over martinis and tiny, tiny hot dogs. Nope. Just consider trading discomforts, right? I grew up during the time of Cabbage Patch Kids. I don't know if you guys remember this. I'm sorry, no. Garbage Pail Kids. It was this trading, these cards you could buy with a stick of gum. Garbage Pail Kids and baseball cards and Hot Wheels. You could trade them, right? Even after Halloween, I'd trade candy with all the other kids who were allergic to nuts, and I'd get all their Almond Joys and peanut M&Ms and stuff like that and give them the, I don't know, apples or the popcorn ball with the razor blade in it or whatever I got that didn't have nuts. Trading is good. There's Indian groups or different types of Aboriginal groups and things like that that existed on trading for centuries. Consider trading. Which risk you're going to use or which discomfort you choose at this season of your life. And just consider, right? I'm a nobody, just this guy talking into a microphone. Just consider there was a time where the discomfort of losing money and taking risks paid really, really well. Kind of awesome. You know, there's a time where blacksmiths made a lot of money too until the car industry came out. So just consider that things change and that if risk isn't paying really well over 18 years, which is a pretty long time, some of you aren't even going to live 18 years after you retire. So that makes it not just long term, it makes it your forever, the rest of you. That's about as long term as it gets, as long as you're going to live. 18 years, the market has not been doing well. So consider possibly trading up the discomfort you've chosen for all these decades because your parents did and your grandparents did of risk, trading that up for being a contrarian. Just not having that much to talk about financially with your neighbors or with your friends or at parties or even inside your own home. When you leave a stock portfolio where you got a statement mailed to you every single month, so joker brokers are 12 times worse for the environment than annuity companies because they kill more trees. You get something every single month, and I don't know if they all do it that way, so compliance, calm down, do the Heimlich, put a plunger on your face, and don't choke on your fettuccine. When you switch to a strategy where you don't lose money and they measure it once a year, you're only going to get one statement a year. I mean, the 12 months in between or the 11 months in between is pretty barren. You're suffering, or you have a discomfort, let's call it, just inside of your own home without not having anything to talk about at parties. Okay. But it makes you a lot of money. In the last 18 years, you would have made, if you go to charliespictures.com, CHARLIES, Charlie's Pictures with an S on the end of it, plural, charliespictures.com, you get to my Instagram, you can see where I showed that an annuity had 31 to 38% more money without the chance of risk and without the fees than a stock portfolio, and that's if you're buying the S&P 500 with no fees, which is not possible. Okay, so it's uncomfortable to not get a statement every month, but you're really going to give up 38% of your net worth or of your potential account size so you can look at something every month and have that little, slap your arm like when you're ready for some drugs, ready for a shot. I need a hit. I'm going to end the podcast because I'm beating this dead horse. I'm just saying, consider trading the discomfort of losing money for the discomfort of not doing what everybody's doing. And you might just find, like I did, an incredible, wonderful, profitable life where you don't miss talking about stocks at parties anyway. I think you people are the best.
Renovating Retirement with Charlie Jewett.
That's all, folks.